May feel the ogden down the front straight. Rivkin still right behind him, pacing him.
How you doing? My name is George, and you're watching the Northeast RC Racer podcast. And I'm here with my normal crew of characters. I got my right-hand man, Toby Hampson. I got Vin Manchenda doing our setup talk.
Hey.
Tom Petrella from Rhythm RC.
What's up, guys?
We have our special guest as well, which is Cam Cullen. He's a YouTuber for the 1A scale off-road racing, as well as a number of other things related to RC racing. 10 scale setup tips, vlogs, so on and so forth. What's up, Cam?
Hey, George. Hey, everyone watching. Excited to be here. Talk a little bit of RC tonight.
Cool,
Cam,
man.
are you an RC influencer?
That influencer term's a little bit ahead of my generation, honestly.
It's all good. I just hear that on the radio all the time. I'm like, oh, God, come on.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. No, thank you.
It's like a
Definitely
big
cool.
spiritual for some kids out there nowadays. They think that's how they're going to make their billions.
Yeah.
I'd like to think what I'm doing is a little bit beyond the TLC channel.
Right.
Motor Trend channel.
I'll take it.
All right,
That's a little bit better.
If anybody
Cable
knows a
access.
food influencer, definitely hit me up. I could use one for my other business. Anyway, we're excited to be back. This is episode 17. Last episode we had, which was 16, was with Thomas Kaufman. We really appreciate him coming out. It was so awesome to hear from him. He had a really great RD perspective. It's been a while. We've had a lot of young guns to shotguns in here. And it was good to get a perspective from Thomas about what it's like to run a race, as well as being a racer. For those of you who don't recall, he was definitely an RD for a long time at LCRC. So definitely good to have him in here. We'd look to follow up with him in the future. But once again, thanks a lot, Thomas. In the meantime, since then, there's been a lot of racing going on. And I've definitely gone out to one race at Rhythm. I went to another race at the barn recently, which was great. And I know a lot of the other guys have been out racing. So what's been happening, guys? Toby?
Well, I think we should talk about our EB mods first, right?
Yep, we can definitely do that, Toby. Thanks for keeping us on track.
Yeah,
Take it away.
Occasionally. So I want to give a shout out to EB Mods. He is now an official sponsor of this podcast. EB Mods, if you haven't been to ebmods.com for your engine, OS parts, glow plugs, exhaust pipes. Engine's a bit of, Ed's a bit of he's a long-time nitro guy, so he can take care of your engine braking needs, piston sleeve resizing, engine rebuilds, dyno tuning, that kind of thing. So again, hit up ebmods.com and I'll take care of you from nitro. So back over to you, George.
Well, what episode was Ed on? I think it was episode 14 or 15. I mean, I learned so much just from him talking in the 30 minutes he was on here.
Right? Yeah,
I'll send him a motor. Absolutely. He's a wizard.
Apparently the fastest guys send their motors to EB Mods. He was calling out guys like Greg Harmer that night when we were on the show. So I think, if you're into nitro.
Episode 15.
He knows his stuff for sure.
Mm-hmm. And he's coming back, right, George?
He is. We're working on that, actually. We had hoped that Ed was going to be with us in June. Ed said he's actually got a lot of work to do, and he doesn't know if he can allocate the time in the month of June. So we're working behind the scenes, trying to move the chess pieces around. We do have a bunch of really cool guests that are coming up this season. We have a major tire manufacturer coming in. We also have another pro racer representing a great brand that hopefully is seeing a resurgence in the Northeast, as well as we're hoping to get some experts in here for electronic speed control. So super excited, trying to bring you guys awesome content. It's not just me. This is all a consortium of work through all the guys that are here on this panel. So I want to say thanks to everybody here, Toby, Vinny, Tom. Without you guys, the content isn't as good as what it is. And I totally appreciate everybody helping out, because I think at the end of the day, doing a good job.
Thanks. You're too kind, George.
Trying to do my best, man. Just trying to do my best for the hobby. Like you, Cam. And that's the point, right? We're trying to, the genesis of this was trying to pay it forward. I've loved the hobby. It's been awesome racing. I've known great proprietors of racetracks, and some of my best friends in the hobby are actually the guys that I race with. So as a result of that, it just came time to do something else that we could do to pay it forward. And, you know, I've seen a lot of attrition happen in the tri-state. We've had these tracks, and then sometimes they go real lean and then they get real fat, right? It's the times that when they go lean or they disappear, like a local track we had in New Jersey, that you start to get worried about the hobby a little bit. And then you kind of look to see, like, who else can we bring or who else can you invite in? So real happy to see what you're doing. And, your efforts definitely, we're going to get to them later and see what they're all about. In the meantime, I know Toby's got a whole bunch to cover about recent races and some top 5 finishes at local tracks. And the other guys might want to have something to add before Toby gets into his segment. Anybody else got something?
No, we're good. I'm anxious to see what Toby put together.
Yep.
Let's do it.
Do it.
All righty. So I'm just gonna get my shit together here. So we're just gonna walk through 3, I guess, of the significant events that happened in our region. I guess since the last podcast, when was that? Let's just say middle of April, right?
Yep.
So we got we'll talk about the last event actually at LCRC because I was actually physically there. I've not been able to travel much because I've just had some rotator cuff surgery, but I limped over there. I had my son take me over, so I was able to see some of this racing happen. So I'm just going to walk through the 6 significant classes. So let's start with Nitro Buggy. Ethan Mechanic, your TQ, taking down the win. Joey, actually, Joey Bourdon was leading that race for what looked to be a pretty easy win, but had issues with his engine and had to retire, which was pretty shocking. I can't quite fully understand the engine he was running, but I won't.
Sounds like he needs Ed Bridges in his life.
Yeah, right. But yeah, also Greg Harmer, he also fell to engine issues as well. So he dropped out. Dylan Rapiso coming in for second. He's actually featured in a few local races, doing really well. Schreffler, I think he started off way back in the field, which is fairly unusual for Schreff, driving that Sparko ride, but he got more comfortable, worked his way up to the 3rd place on the podium. Ciccarello out there in 4th, and Aiden coming in for 5th. So some good results. Nitro Buggy, E-Buggy, Bourdon, TQ taking a win. Looks like it was pretty easily. Brett out there, the Iron Man. We had him on this podcast a couple of times. Thomas doing well out there with his Kyosho, Ciccarello, and Garrett. Another fast young gun. And then we had Gavin and Dylan flaming out somewhere in that race. Truggy, I think Dylan and I'm not sure which Dylan I'm talking about. I think it's Dylan Rapiso and Gavin started up pretty high in the order, but I'll just say they flamed out because they came out not particularly good down the field. Nitro Truggy, Joe Bourdon, I believe he was Harmer was your TQ. Harmer again had engine issues, so a bit of a bust for Harmer that weekend. Ciccarello, Brett, Ethan, and Ron G, the infamous return of Ron G. I don't know if any of you guys know Ron. He, since I've known him and I've been racing at LCO since 2016, he's got in and got out of the hobby at least 3 times. So if you guys are looking for a deal with Mugen, so just keep watching him. He'll probably, if he has a bad day, he might be selling all his stuff. E-Truggy, is that what I'm reading there? E-Truggy. So starting at the back of this these results, Aiden, Vin's kid, started was you last in the D main, Vin?
Yeah. He was 2 DNFs, so that was the end of qualifying. So he had to work his way up, all the way up from the back of the pack, and it was like he'd come in, cooling it down, charging batteries, right back out there. So he got a lot of practice that day.
Yeah, he did a lot of track
wake
times.
up early.
So we had because we had a messed up schedule. We had all the lower mains were 10 minutes, so he would have gotten know, 40 minutes of driving, right, in that class.
Yeah.
Gavin Nipple, another local favorite. Brett Butters for TQ coming in third. Garrett and Kaufman taking down the win. I think it was a pretty easy win for Thomas. He was gone after like lap 1. 40 plus nitro buggy. Adam Curry coming up from 6th place. Rob Allen.
Nice.
I think he had a good finish. I think Rob didn't start too far up the front, but good for second.
They flamed out at least once in that race.
Rob? Yeah.
No, a 40 plus nitro. I think everybody had a flame out. It was crazy. It was just a
Yeah.
It was a war of attrition for sure.
Yeah, Pierce flamed out because he was up front or in top 3, and he flamed out. His race was over. Henry had a great run, led pretty much the whole race until closing laps. He flamed out in the sweeper. I think about third's pretty decent considering McHenry. And then Billy coming back from he used to race with us many years ago. I mean, not many years ago, but I'd say within at least 5-7 years ago. He's back on the scene, and I told him, okay, you're back, but you can't beat me. But sure enough, he came in 5th. So whatever. I couldn't get out of the fucking B main. So he came 12th.
On the PAP, just real quick on the PAP, especially because he's a friend of mine. Like you said, Billy's been away for a couple of years, right? But before Billy went away, if anybody knows Billy is just a very talented guy, whether it's a musician, whether it's a surfer, whether it's
he's a drummer, isn't
he? He's not just a drummer, he's an amazing drummer.
Yeah.
So he plays like 5 different instruments. I've seen him actually put a whole song together where he's playing every different instrument. I think he's actually got a video on YouTube about it. But Billy just excels. Good to see him back. He's taking it easy, just trying to pick up his rhythm and his speed. He's not out there to impress anybody, but watch out, because by the middle of the summer, Billy's going to be smoking it and laying it down. And that's it. I got my armor on, going to try to defend. But there's a lot of guys Billy's definitely going to take down. So I'm looking forward to seeing Billy kick some ass this season.
Yeah, it's funny because we chatted for a while, and his wife actually made him get back into the hobby because I think she was like, you need to get out. You got to stop working so hard. So I don't think you don't hear that very often where a wife actually wants you to go racing. So,
Billy's actually got a lot of lineage for RC in his wife's family. So the reason Billy loves RC, but Billy's father-in-law is actually one of the top NAMBA boat racers in the Northeast and actually holds some NAMBA titles. I believe they're NAMBA titles. It could be misspoken, but I know he's got some titles for RC boat racing. And Bill's father-in-law, Chris, he was friends with like Remy from the guy who created Aero Marine. Like all those guys were super tight. And this other guy up in New York who does like all these specialized props today. Anyway, I just kind of found this all out as I started hopping into a little bit of RC boating because I'd always heard Chris talking about that, who's Billy's father-in-law. So Billy's definitely got that in there. Hence, his wife wants him to get out because she grew up going to the races with her dad all the time. So she wants him. Yeah, she wants him to have a lot of fun and get out and go Mrs. Pappenberg.
Yeah, right. Seriously. Last one, 40 plus E buggy. Willard taking the TQ and the win. Adam Curry, Nitro buggy winner. Pierce, Darren, I don't know who Darren Keynes is, and some other geezer, Tom Petrella, I don't know, coming in 5th. Then the Trains and Lays Electric Challenge. That was a race on May 11th. They did a spec tire for e-buggy. I believe it was double mains for those guys. God, I can hardly read my own writing on that. But it's a TC.
Read your own writing.
You what?
It's tight. How do you not be able to read your own writing?
I know, right? My handwriting's even worse. So, Nitro Buggy, Thomas again, TQ, taking a win, Placa, Sophia, Drinks, and Jake. Not sure. Top 5 Nitro Buggy, E-Buggy, Schreffler, Fear, Colin Morse, who was your TQ, ended up coming in 3rd. Cruz, actually, he, from what I saw, the results was a DNF in one of the races. So he started like in the B main, bumped out of the B, coming in for 4th in the A. That's pretty good from the double A's. And then Last guy is Zavin Risotto. I don't know the guy, but he got 5th. Nitro Truggy. It was looks like it was a Benny show. TQ and a win. Johnny DeSanti, Angel, Baby Cruz, Dennis Brew. E-Trug, looks like the Kaufman show again. Dominic Smith, Fast Young Tico, Techno Guy, Ophir, BB, and Brian Bush. Benny or TQ in E-Truggy, I believe. 40 plus E-Buggy, Paul Rutledge. Haven't seen Paul racing for a while. Ophir, your TQ for second. EB, Brian, and Adam Gregory. I wanted to mention Adam Gregory because he showed me his electric buggy actually when I was at LCRC, and he's actually running. I think he's running an AE buggy with like a Kyosho front end or something on it. It's a total
Exactly what it is.
Franken buggy, but he seems to do pretty well with it.
Yeah, I helped him with a little bit of testing. We he had an Ackerman plate made, and actually got it running pretty smoothly. I was really impressed.
Yep.
Toby, before you go into that, on that last screen, Brian Bush, you mentioned his name twice. I was at the barn this past weekend, and I had an amazing battle with Brian back and forth, which was great. So I want to throw Brian a shout out. Good racer, man. I definitely look forward to battling with you again. We were in this one race in the barn. There was an accident in the corner. I heard the announcer, and I guess Brian didn't. So I tucked to the inside. He ended up catching the wreck. I got away from him a little bit because we were only a few car lengths away. 3 or 4 laps later, same scenario happened. He heard it. I didn't. I ended up catching the wreck. He ended up taking off. And but we were in between that. We were definitely passing each other and definitely having a good battle. Good racer. Brian, look forward to the next one, buddy.
Yeah, name's familiar. I don't recall him, but
he's at LCRC, I hear. He races there a bunch.
Cool. Mr. Beat Day 26th. This was just last weekend, rescheduled from I believe first weekend in May. It's usually right around my son's birthday. Nitro Buggy. Looks like it was the Aiden Manchanda show. TQ in the win. Schrefer second. Yeah, I'll have to see Schrefer get beaten. Christian coming back out of the East come race. Mahakian and Ophir rounding out the top 5. E-Buggy again. Aiden spanking everybody. TQ in a win. Brent. Benny for 3rd. It's pretty good. Brian Bush again. And Ophir ended up 5th from starting 12th. It's a pretty good result. Nitro Truggy. Go ahead.
Forget it.
Nitro Truggy, which is on life support over at the barn. It was like 5 entries, maybe 6. 5 in the race. So Benny on TQ in the win. Frank Babarecki. They call him Frank 5.0. Dennis Brew, Kush, and Arturio take it down the top 5 of Truggy. E-Truggy, Aiden again, TQ in a win. Benny Ophir, love to see Benny beating his dad. That's awesome.
Beating his old man, look at that.
Love it. Frank Rodriguez and Rob Hellman taking down the last spots on the podium. 40 plus Nitro Buggy, Ophir, TQ and a win. Anthony Bartholomew. Tim Powers coming out of the woodwork. Hadn't seen him around. He was a long time Long Island racer. Dennis Brew from 11th to 4th. It's a good result for Dennis. And Jermaine is, I've known Jermaine for a while. He comes and goes, races all kinds of classes, on road, off road, 10 scale, 8 scale. Good to see him back out there. Yep, J Money. And 40 plus E Buggy, Ophir, Brian Bush for the TQ coming in 2nd. Some guy, I don't know, he's a slow guy in 3rd. Adam Gregory and Joe Laverde for bringing up 5th. So that's your little results spiel for the 3 significant races in the region recently.
My chuckle was Ophir had taken me for that 5th spot in Buggy by 1 second. One of us, as usual. 10 years racing with Ophir. It's always like this back and forth. But hey, that's what makes it so great at the same time.
How'd it feel to get a top 3 at the barn this past weekend?
Felt good, brother. I feel like I can be there when I'm there, and if I'm not kind of on there, I'm a little aggravated. But at the end of the day, I got to fight. I had a new car, so I was super happy. You know about it. We were pitting next to each other all
Sure.
day, so you saw me miss a race and then have some other good ups and downs. But started running a Kyosho car recently, and
Nice.
really suiting me well. To be honest with you, really suiting me well. So I was real happy. Was contending, and look forward to getting out the next race soon.
Good deal. Yeah, kicking out outdoor season. You're on your way. Top 3 right now. Who's to say we'll be at the end by the end of the year?
To, some will say, third loser, but nonetheless, it's always nice to be on the podium.
Right.
And Toby, how do you feel about it? I haven't had a chance to talk to you about the Kyosho car, and you have a lot of experience with it. And what I was saying to Tom when he was asking me was, I said, it feels like an HP car that went to like the M3 factory. That's what the Kyosho felt.
I mean, the quality is, coming from Mayako to Kyosho. I mean, I don't want to beat up Mayako because I think I agree with a lot of things, and I actually have dug up my old hat of the pile of hats. But the quality is second to none. Japanese quality. Yeah, I drove the MP9 for a long time, the TKO 3 and the 4. So I'm pretty familiar. Not much has really changed. Kind of structurally, front end, then the arms are new. There's various very subtle changes. So the cars drive pretty similarly. It's just a lot more durable. I still get frustrated with the maintenance side of things, like changing the oil and center diff is a pain in the ass. But I think I was spoiled coming from the techno world. I always singing the praises of techno, but those guys think about maintenance. So it's frustrating taking the whole center diff out, taking it all apart. I can't tell you how many times I put the center diff back in. Like you put the center diff back in, and then you put it in ass backwards, and you're just getting ready to screw it, and you're like, oh fuck me, and you have to take it out and do it all again. I've done that multiple times. So now I have 2 cars, the 2 nitro buggies. So now when I'm doing it, I look at the other one to make sure I'm not about to screw up the one in front of me, which works.
It's a model.
Yeah, right.
How do you like the handling though?
I like it. I mean, it's a good, safe car. I mean, I kind of felt that when I drove the MP9, and I drove it probably like 4 or 5 years, I felt like I got it into a little bit of a sluggish, overly comfortable, drive. I don't know. I didn't feel like I was really progressing, or that I don't know. I don't know where I was at, but sometimes just a change of a car is just, reinvigorates your driving.
Sure.
And I went from that to a techno car, and I this was back in whatever 2017 or something like that. So that was a nice change. But coming back to the car now, it's I feel I'll be sticking with it for a while. So
the one that you have, or the one that you were running before, is it the split pack design like the one I'm running now?
I don't know
how long this.
Talking about e-buggy. Fuck that shit. No, I have an e-buggy. The MP9 was a single pack. In fact, the original MP9 was like a conversion, I think, from the nitro buggy. Okay. It just basically gave you a battery holder and a motor mount, but I think it was pretty much the same chassis originally on the first MP9E.
Sure.
But now the MP10E is it's a split pack. So I run a 2 short is, I think, back on the back.
Nice.
So, but yeah.
So far, so good, man. Yeah, I really.
Yeah. I've not run a lot of e-buggy. I don't know. As I get older, I can barely deal with one car, let alone 2. So I kind of destroyed the speed controller at Motorama for like the 14 minutes of track time that I got. So it's still on the shelf pretty much since then. So.
We know how you really feel about e-bike.
I didn't want to chuck up a couple $100 for a speed control. I'd rather just buy more engines.
You can't. Most of this panel is pro nitro, and of course, nitro is the glory, bro. So I'm definitely not. I'm not a hater. I'm a supporter.
I'm a supporter all the way. Yeah, I hear you.
There you go. I'm just, I'm more base knee guy. You and I were talking about that.
That's right. I actually had a quick question for Vin. I just got to know, right, Aiden? How about that? 3 TQs, 3 wins as a race dad. How does that? And you obviously a manager and help him out a ton. How does that feel?
Oh man, it feels so good. I mean, I know you're not a parent yet, but anytime you see your kid do well, you can't help but be proud and know that, he's putting in the work in between school. He's got his GPA up and, he got his race program together. He works on all his own stuff. Like, yes, George, I still do diffs and shocks, man. But, yeah, he's super proud. Yeah. Thanks. It was awesome to see.
And a happy birthday to him as well, right? I understood he had a big day today.
Didn't he
Yeah.
just pass his didn't he just pass his driving test?
Yeah,
Get
he
off the
did. He
sidewalks.
did.
Oh boy, watch out.
Yep.
Watch out,
In
you
fact,
Jessica.
he took his grandparents out to dinner tonight, and he drove. He's like, "Grandpa, you're coming with me. You sit right in the front here."
Wow.
So yeah, he's a good kid. Knock on
Yeah,
wood.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Your father was holding on to this, like the door panel.
Yeah.
Not
Put a
yet.
he put a
Give
crash
it a
helmet
couple
on.
Days, that freedom. You know how it is. The first day, it's like, ooh, this. It's like new, and I got this driver's license, freedom, and yeah, like immediately he dropped off. My wife Bree took him. Immediately he dropped her off. Just went for a cruise by himself down the street, back just because he could.
Yeah.
Parked it, and then he was like, "All right, who needs a ride where?"
Nice.
Yeah, it was cool.
Perfect, bro. When they get their license, you're like,
Make sure you go with the
short
rebel
on
girl.
milk. Go-
I'll just put it on for you.
What's
That's
that, Tom? Sorry.
That's no, it's just the moment's gone.
Gotcha. All right, it's gone. All right. So speaking of moments, Toby read the stats about rhythm. So tell us what it was actually like there for this event.
Actually,
Yes,
I
we've
didn't
had
cover
two
rhythm,
events.
but
We've had a podcast since the first one. I'm trying to remember now. I'm starting to lose track.
I don't think we have. No.
Yeah, so our first event, unfortunately, we had a good turnout. I forget the exact count. I think we had like 65 entries, but maybe a little bit more. But and unfortunately, rain came in afterwards. We tried to push through the day as much as we could. We got 2 full rounds in, but never really got to the mains. But a lot of new guys, local guys, also some seasoned racers came out to support us. So I was very grateful for that. Trying to learn a lot more about the track as we go. Then we had a race last weekend, had 80 entries, worked out really good. We got we're doing 2 rounds, 6-minute rounds of qualifying, and we ran extended mains for everybody, 20-minute nitro mains, 10-minute electric mains for everybody. So we try to get the max amount of track time in for everybody. But people have a lot of fun, man. It's grassroots racing. We're still learning a lot. We're still trying to learn about the track. We're trying to learn about the dirt, how to treat it, how to get it ready, how to try to get the best surface we can. But if you look at the smiles on faces that when I walk through the pits, it's all worth it. A lot of happy racers, and it's kind of what it's all about.
Tom, all I can say is when I got there late and I first started running, I was so happy to see so many faces. First guy, Jim Little, right? So I got to see him. Great. I hadn't seen him in years from the Vineland, crew. Then of course I ran into Mel. Then I ran into fucking Jim McLaren. The list goes on and on. It was just great to run into all these guys that I used to race with or just hang out with down in Vineland. So, you definitely are in an area and you still have a tap into all these guys, whether it's the Kimleys or, Chappie or you name it, right? So all those guys are just, flocking to you, which is great. So I was talking to somebody the other day. I said, yeah, my friend Tom started a track down there. I was like, basically, he's brought the whole Vineland crew back together, which is great.
It's what it feels like at times. It's like a family reunion.
I'm surprised you can get anything done.
Nah, it's a lot of good people. Well, that's the next step. So Jim's grandson is doing really well. His name's Jackson. He's been racing really well. Just he's a strong racer. But I'm trying to train him up. I'm like, look, buddy, I built this track and I don't even get a chance to race anymore. So we have to train you up. It's a double win. Not only do I get a chance to race and I'll teach him how to call the races, he'll also stop getting better so he doesn't, beat me anymore. He already beats me on carpet. At least want to have the advantage on dirt.
Yeah, I saw Zach Sinclair came in second.
Yeah, well, I noticed. Well, I was looking before. We had Kaufman came in and won both. Kaufman. So, real quick story. So, there's one section of the track on the far right hand side. It's meant to be 2 rollers, and that's all it is. And Thomas and Zach were having a pretty close battle on e-buggy. And at one point in the race, towards the end, and they followed each other for a while, but about a minute to go, Kaufman made sort of a bonsai move. It's possible that 2 rollers can actually be double, but you got to hit it perfectly. And Kaufman hit that, jumped over top of Zach, got to the point,
Nice.
and started checking out with about 45 seconds ago. So he had about 2 laps left, and I'm announcing it, and I'm trying to egg on Kaufman. I'm like, there's no way in hell he's going to try this one more time on the last lap of the race. If he screws this up, he could lose the race. But kudos to Kaufman. He freaking sent it, landed it perfect, came around and took the win. So it was really, really cool to see. And it was actually, I think for the e-buggy, it was Kaufman, Sinclair, and Dan Ross, top 3. And then in Nitro, it was Kaufman, Dan Ross, and Sinclair. So those 3 guys were all battling back and forth. We had some good racing all day. Another local guy, Mike Sonali, which I haven't really seen him racing out of LCR or anything, but TLR racer, he looked good out there, man. He like walked away in 40 plus. Nitro, he did really good. Another guy out there I felt really bad for running an e-truck. His name's Larry Mullen. Larry had checked out, and then like with 2 minutes to go, he broke his car and lost the win. But he was almost a lap up on the field. But it happens, unfortunately. But then Tom McHugh, you guys know Tom McHugh. You guys have probably met Tom. I know you know him, Vin. He ended up picking up the win in e-buggy, which was awesome to see his buddy Jesse.
Nice.
I don't know who was more excited, Tom or Jesse, at the end of it.
Uncle Jess.
Was really good to see, man. Those guys had a good time. So, again, a lot of fun racing and a lot of smiles. So, makes it all worth it.
All club racing, right?
That's it.
That's good to see. Good to see no trophy races out there. At least at this point, right? Tom, it's just all
Not yet.
trophy
Wink,
races.
wink, George.
Yeah, and you're racing this coming weekend too, right?
We are, yeah.
Excellent.
So I think what we're going to try to do, like in September, is that the podcast is going to sponsor a race at Rhythm. So we're going to do a nice Northeast RC Racer podcast sponsored race with some full plaque trophies with the logo, and hopefully we're going to make that happen later on in the year. But
better head to the
can't
party
figure out-
store.
to the what party store?
Yeah. Some shitty plastic trophies.
No, I'm gonna have the same guy that actually made that awesome hat that Tom's wearing right now. My buddy Joe in Red Bank, he's got some really cool machines. So I think like the barn gets this like plastic stock material, whoever makes them.
George, I think can you make something like this? Solid aluminum.
There we go.
Every
the
class, that'd
spirit.
be pretty nice.
That is a weapon.
Those are fucking insane. Josh is
I
an
can work on my biceps here with this thing.
Can you imagine how much he spent on those? And there was like millions.
I think
of
just
them.
raw material. I mean, that's aluminum.
That's
That's solid
CNC, right?
aluminum. Yeah,
That's
pretty impressive.
Oh yeah.
All those little icons at the bottom of your screen happen to be donations or participating entities, except for one, EB Mods, who is our awesome and amazing sponsor. So right now you get the thin plastic one stuff.
Yeah.
All good. Listen, it's all about the smiles. I mean, no, I'd rather have a good race for 7th place than walk away in 1st place, right? To me, it's all about the battles and the fun and the laughs and whatever else might happen.
100%. 100%. All right, we are going to move on to our next segment. Tom Petrella, we've been talking most of this last few minutes, is going to continue talking with the next segment. Tom's done some awesome research over the last few weeks, compiled some spreadsheets together about the popularity of certain chassis that are being run in different classes in the Northeast area. So through that exploration, he's built some great graphs. We can see where the concentration is in each class. So Tom's going to take it over and he's going to explain what he's gone through.
Cool. Well, look, this is trying to emulate some of what Toby does. I don't do it as well as him, but I guess, I've been out of work now for 3 years since I retired. So I kind of felt like I need to get back into spreadsheets and start farting around a little bit of data. So, I know we had a good conversation on, what chassis are good out there, what we should, what's winning, what's not. And I'm like, you know what, let's see if we can take a data-driven approach to this and try to say, hey, what is chassis that are winning out there? What's kind of happening. So broke it down a few different ways. To start, it's the data we pulled from to kind of give a baseline. We looked at the results from Barnstormers opener, LCRC's opener, the Northeast Showdown, and the Trains and Lanes opener. I compiled all the buggy data. If they had a 40 plus class, the top 10 is in there, expert top 10 and intermediate top 10, trying to make a pretty big gamut. If there was a situation, I think it was Barn, or it might have been Trains, one of the two, or maybe it was both, didn't have an expert and intermediate class, I took the top 15 to try to broaden the results overall. So that's kind of the data set: top 10 40 plus, top 10 expert, top 10 intermediate. And if there is no designation between expert and intermediate, hey, we took the top 15. So that's the kind of a quick look at the information. Want to click over to the next one for me, Toad?
Yep.
So this is looking at both e-buggy and nitro buggy combined. So let's real quick kind of look at the data, because you want to be careful looking at the graph. First off, the blue bars you're looking at, think of this like golf. The lower the number, the better. Essentially what we did is, if Aiden Manchanda won the race, he got 1 point. And if I got 10th place, I had 10 points. And I took the total amount of people using that brand and divided by the average position to come out with an actual number. So like you actually see on this particular chart, S-Works has the best overall result. Now, the only thing you got to be careful when you're looking at that type of data is look at the count of positions. So that means how many times was that car actually run or shown in the top 10? It's only 3. So sometimes that data can get skewed. But if you look at like X-Ray, X-Ray, I'm going to put my head a little closer, right? Their average position is 4.9, but that's over 25 different results. That's a little better indication of where they stand. Agama's the same type of thing. Agama's, third overall, but there's only one result being counted. So you have to kind of take some of it with a grain of salt. But when I look at some of the bigger brands, the ones that have, the higher counts, X-Ray stands out pretty good. AE stands out really well. HB's right there, Techno. And it kind of, again, it's a broad indicator. The orange line will indicate how many times, and it's on the right side axis. That'll kind of tell you how many times that brand has been in that top 10 or top 15. So let me stop for a second, because I went through a lot of information here. Because you guys probably have questions, and I'm guessing other people are going to have questions. I'm going to go into electric and nitro individually afterwards. But tell me what I missed, or what questions you have.
Nobody drives TLR anymore. You know what I mean?
And that's why you look at that count of position becomes pretty important.
Yeah.
Because with 4 results that are equal in that result. And let's be honest, right? If we put, no offense, not to make you nervous, man, but we put Aiden in a TLR tomorrow, chances are that's going to drive that number down pretty significantly. If we put George on an X-Ray tomorrow, the number is going to go up a good bit.
Right.
Just kidding, George. I had to dig in a little bit. Right? But I mean, it's going to vary based upon, how many results there are. So, I was going to negate some of the ones at under 5, but I figured I'll show the data and you get
it's awesome data. I mean, you maybe could separate the 2 charts out. You know what I mean? That it might be easier on simpletons like me. But it's great data, and it's super useful for what's going on in the region. Clearly you can see what's winning. What wins on Sunday sells on Monday.
The big thing is, if you see the orange bar towards the bottom, that basically tells you there's limited data, so that result is probably not applicable. Again, just for the efforts since it was there, I left it in place, but it's less accurate the lower that orange bar is.
Yep.
So in the Agama column, you should just have either Steve from the barn or Marshawn in parentheses, and then in TLR you should just have Tonto.
Yeah, she just cap it and just get rid of those guys. You know what I mean?
No mention of the Mugen, like blown out of the fucking ballpark?
Well, it's a higher number, right? But take it with
Yeah.
a grain of salt. There's also 37 guys there, and look, you have to look who's driving the cars too. And I don't want to, let's look at Sparko as an example, right? If I took Streffler's results out of that list, where does that car fall, right? Streffler has a big impact on that one. If I took the Manchandas and Brett Butter out of AE, where does that number kind of move to, right?
Oh,
So you
pitfall.
do your best to try to. Unfortunately, there's no data that's going to tell you this is the bar, this is the way to go. But it's at least a general look to say, hey, here where stuff's indicated. And look, what I gather after I looked at all this stuff, because honestly, I was kind of using it personally to try to get some ideas myself of if I ever want to try a different brand or something else that might be out there to be worthwhile to look at. What I came back to is the shit's all the same. When you kind of look at it, right? I mean, the average position, you go from X-ray at 4.8 to Techno at 6.0. It's one position different.
Yeah.
It's not a huge differential, but
yeah, what would be good, and it's always going to be a challenge in the USA, right? Is there's no ranking, there's no regional ranking. You know what I mean? So if we had that in like lifetime, everyone was ranked, then it could help. You could add that factor into these results more. To bump up Sparko, because it's only got a pretty low number, but it's got a high caliber driver versus Mugen. It's got like a ton of drivers, but maybe some lower caliber drivers.
it's midfield, right? Well, Sparker right now has got Verstappen or someone to that level is driving, and then the Mugen right now is more of a Williams.
Ocon.
Oh, well, in that case, he's taking out TLR and Kyosho.
Yeah, exactly.
So we want to jump to the next one. We can look at it just solely for electric. Same type of thing. You look at S Works, Sparko. Sparko. That's those two the results there are Schreffler. So that's going to impact a little bit. But again, you can kind of see the numbers are all very similar. There's nothing that's you look at the bars between 4 and 6, the blue bars. Everybody's pretty damn close. TLR you kind of have to toss out. It's a good car, but you got to toss out. There's one guy running it. So how accurate is that data? But when I look at the ones that have a pretty good sampling, X-Ray, HB, Techno, AE, Kyosho, there's pretty good counts there of all those. And average position is pretty damn close. You're going from a 4.75 on up to a 6.0. So it's not a huge differential between them.
It's great data, though, to be able to look at it that way. You know what I mean? Like, I think everybody, when they get a chance to watch the show and they see it, everybody will have a different perspective of the numbers, but it gives you good generality. And I was going to say something before Toby switched the screens, which was based on your, your gold bar location. You should have a little thing down at the bottom that says, if you know your ass from your elbow and you can drive a car a little bit, just stay in the gold bar area.
Yeah, I know what I'd love to see. I wish Live RC would have data out there for intermediate buggy only, and had the brand on there. That would be really cool to see, right? Because when you take the pros out, right? What does that look like? And what I'm trying to get to is, here's what's in it for me, right? I got guys coming to the track all the time. Hey, I'm looking to get into the hobby. What car should I get? And we all know this is a pretty expensive hobby to get into. So you're trying to find a way to point them in the right direction for the right car, for the right value. It'd be kind of cool to see intermediate only, almost even non-sponsored drivers say, okay, what car is there a data? Is there a trend that says, hey, this car has a tendency to do better than others? But you'd have to pull stuff from all across the country and a much bigger data set. And unfortunately, you guys all know, look, you guys helped me a lot. Just going through, when we looked at all these results, we probably had 150 results plus we were going through that we're trying to find out what the hell car everybody drove. We knew a lot of them. We didn't know all of them. So, that can make a difference too. But that's your results in electric. And then if you want to go one more, Toby, we'll go through nitro and then I'll shut up for a little bit. Same type of thing with nitro. Nitro here, pretty good data set. That AE car is pretty strong. X-ray strong. Again, the Agama with wrong result is kind of tough. Sparko, Kyosho. I mean, they're all pretty close. Vin, you got any questions for me? I see you leaning in on the screen. What you got any questions for me? Or
No, it's really interesting data, and I'm also looking at the count of how many cars are out there, and then how many people are making it. And it's interesting to see the difference between nitro and electric. And part of it is the guys coming in. What they should be looking for is the car that is easiest to drive. And I know in my segment later, I'm going to talk about, I'm going to talk about that a little bit. So I'll get back to it a little bit later. But what I'd like to see, and I love this, but I'd like to see a little Northeast series that maybe we can put together for next year, where we can keep track of our own data, have our own races in the series, and we can track the data on that series and different drivers and talk about that. I think that would be awesome.
I want to lobby Live RC too, to have people when they sign up to put their car brand in there. That'd be kind of cool to say, hey, and then you'd have the data to compile later on. It's just not something that's captured right now.
So listen, on the topic of the race series, it's been brought up a couple times. We've all shook our heads about it. So when I hear you say it again, the only way that I can imagine that we could accomplish this, right, is basically getting each one of the participating tracks to take one of the events in their schedule and take it from whatever it's named and basically donate it. I don't think there's any room in the schedule for us to be able to do that. I would hope and I would think, based on our support for the local tracks, that we could get them to, think it's a good idea. And, if we were able to pick up other sponsors, we would be able to, maybe extend, some type of, program for that. That would be an awesome thing to look forward to next year. So definitely try on that. Brian's part of the podcast. So is Rohan. So those are simple conversations. And then some of the other guys on the podcast can probably talk to Kevin and Krista about it. But that would be really cool. I highly doubt LCRC, but maybe it's at the end of the season, tail end of the season.
Guess what, George?
What
we can also make it unofficial too, right? There's no one that says, hey,
Yeah.
you can still make that series and say, we're going to count. Here's the 8 events that make up the Northeast RC Racers Podcast Cup. And
You can do it that way too.
your top 5 or 6 count and let people have 2 drops. Because there's going to be guys that race at the barn that may not come to LCRC. There may be someone from Rhythm that doesn't want to go out to the barn, right? Whatever it might be. Or hey, you know what? Like, I know I got a race coming up, the Mugen Challenger. I'm not going to make that race, unfortunately, just because it's my wife's birthday. So I'm not going to make it that weekend, right? Sometimes they have personal things going on.
Yeah, we can even add another track every year and expand the range of that. But I love that, Tom. That's a great idea. I think that's going to be a great way, at least to get it going and off the ground.
Because
Toby,
offered, right? Toby
Hey,
offered to capture all the results and put it into a spreadsheet for us and keep track of it, right, Toby?
Say it again.
You just say yes.
Yes,
No, say brilliant. Say brilliant.
absolutely. That was a really awesome idea.
Can you say brilliant?
Brilliant, fantastic, smashing.
Dude, brilliant sounds
There you
best
go.
when it comes out with an English.
Smashing is the thing.
There you go, smash.
You're
Smashing
British
it.
going.
I was just watching TV yesterday, and someone said smashing. I'm like, yeah, smashing. You never hear that anymore. So I'm like, fuck yeah.
Awesome, dude. Awesome. Tom, great idea, dude, because you're absolutely right. And I think that works best. So now we just got to basically pick whatever races they are. And then, we can have some little trophy at the end that works out that we can give away. That would be pretty cool.
I like it.
Awesome stuff. All right. Let's
You
see.
said trophies, right? Something like this.
If there's only 3 of those going out for top 3,
I got a
depends
good
on
one.
our sponsorship, but yes, I think we'll try to do something. What's Toby gonna get? Some fucking Daytona trophy right now?
Well, I tell you what I can do. I can get some solder and kind of ball it up and start making it look like that.
Hold on, I got to see what Toby's got in his hands right
This
now.
will
there-
and always be the best fucking trophy. Ah,
Wall RC baby.
and the best part is waterboarding this motherfucker. It's so funny. The sounds it makes. It's just giggle like a little school child when I do that.
Yeah, that was a Thanksgiving race. Those were our prizes for the turkey race.
Yeah, it was freezing cold there, and you guys were giving away frozen turkeys, and it was hilarious. But I got that, and I was like, I'm super happy with third or whatever it was. Like, you take the turkey, I want the rubber duck or turkey, rubber turkey.
The fact that you've kept it since 2016 or 17 just shows how much you liked it. Also,
Oh yeah, that's never going. That's the best thing. I got rid of most things, but that thing's staying.
if I could show you a picture of my wall over there, I actually took mine and I screwed him into the wall. But once in a while, you can just punch his stomach. So when I'm bored in there, I just walk by and give him a little punch.
Yeah, it's awesome.
You got a plate like a xylophone. It'll have a different tone.
Yeah, it's awesome. Best thing ever.
Most definitely. Well, great memories from that track, that's for sure.
For sure.
That's what keeps me going for all this. We've part of that energy.
Yep.
Let's see here. We have we're gonna hop to our next segment, which is we just covered the chassis brand. Actually, before we go to our YouTuber Cam, in regards to the chassis discussion, we had a brief discussion last time about the chassis that we all ran or that we felt were good. So, do we have any advice that we could offer a new racer just coming into this podcast for the first time, or somebody just starting and not sure because they picked up one brand but they're not sure which way to go? Do we have any kind of vote or consensus about what would be the probably best brand for the average new guy to step into?
I think you have to come down to part support, as Vin said, ease of driving, right? How many racers have it? I mean, like we go back to the charts we had before. You may think the Agama looks cool, and no disrespect to the guys driving Agama. There's one of them. If you break apart, you're a new guy. Matter of fact, you guys take a look. It came out today. Look, Roach RC. You guys ever see Roach RC? I forget the guy's name from down south. I can't remember his first name, but
nice guy.
Yeah, he put out a cool video today about his recommendations for what's a good brand to start with, and it had less to do. He went through all the different brands at first, but he talked about get something that's easy to drive, local track support. Look, I have to admit, I tell people look at the Associated. I think it's pretty. You have somebody like Vin who's putting all the stuff up on SoDial with everything, and I haven't seen anybody ask Vin for help and Vin say no. I pit next to Butter. I mean, Butter's got people coming all day, asking him for parts or advice, and the guy always makes the time. I'm impressed.
Yeah, parts are so reasonable and readily available as well. So it's
it's kind of hard not to give that one. But look, here's the other advice I give somebody brand new: don't be afraid to buy something used first.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Don't buy ready to run.
Learn the car.
Yep.
Figure out what you want because you don't want to buy it. You try not to buy it 2 or 3 times. It's pretty expensive.
I mean,
Roach RC, his name is Cade Williams, by the way.
Cade Williams. All right. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, but that is a good video. It's worth checking out.
We should ask him on the show too. He's a good dude.
Yeah. It's a good idea.
So before we hop to the next segment, we have 4 tracks, right? No, we got 3 tracks. Sorry about that. 4 tracks, including LCRC. So in general, right, if we could offer some advice, part support, familiarity, people that we know at the track, what would be a good brand? I'm going to say Techno, right? There's a lot of guys running Techno. So if it's a new guy stepping into it, you can always find guys that are running it in parts. HB used to be that way, but now you basically have to go to Tom or James Henry or Ophir if you're looking for a part at the track. AE's got some decent people that are at the track. And then, as of late, I guess Kyosho, there's more and more guys running that.
Yeah, Kevin Mumo at LCRC now is a Kyosho dealer. So
oh, is he really? Cool.
Yeah, I just helped spend a bunch of his money when I was there last time ordering stock. So he should have a lot of stuff on the shelves when they go back for the Party Walk race in 20th of this month.
Yep, he's all stocked up on AE parts too. I helped him get that wall full.
Yeah. Ciccarello's supposed to have taken care of the X-Ray stuff. So X-Ray, AE, Mugen, Kyosho,
Techno,
pretty well covered.
Techno. I mean, your stuff's strong.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you don't really need much for Techno other than maybe a clutch pedal. You're good to go.
You guys heard it right here. You know the brands to start with. If you need some part support or you feel like you can go to the track with a card, you know there's going to be somebody that's out there. So just wanted to see if we can wrap that up, and then we're going to move into our next segment. We have our guest, Cam Cullen. Cam is from LRC, I believe, and that is his YouTube channel. Cam, welcome to the show.
Thanks for that, George. Appreciate it. Man, I'm already learning a lot. We've been on the call for 55 minutes. I'm learning all about these, platforms and who's racing what kind of platforms are trending upward and downward. As a team associated guy, I guess I'm a little biased growing up, but it's a privilege to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Cool, man. It was awesome segue. You know, as I said before, we're like a chain, right? We're as strong as our weakest link. And Vinny came to the podcast a few months ago, and Vinny's got some really good contacts in the industry and runs into some different people. So I've been very fortunate to get some good feeds and contacts from Vin. And he had run into you recently, and he had thrown it to us as a suggestion. And we looked at your vids, and most definitely worthy, man. We are favorable to anybody, and we're definitely looking to support anybody that's looking to spread the love of A scale racing. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into the hobby, and how you decided to develop a channel, and then we can talk about some of the famous people that you've already had a chance to interview.
Yeah, of course. I mean, hey, as a Northeastern kid growing up in Little Falls, New Jersey, having a podcast, having a cool platform like this is what it's all about. So I basically was racing RC cars in 2010 or so. We had a backyard racing league that me and my buddy Brent Post developed. We're called RRLRC because we raced on Reiner's Road in Little Falls, and that's essentially the raceway was Reiner's Raceway, and we became Reiner's Racing League, which is the acronym RRL. And I was always a kid with a camera in my hand, recording my buddies doing stupid stuff around the neighborhood, always making tapes, whether it was on a VHS, like a cassette kind of thing, or ultimately on YouTube. And even when we were doing this backyard racing stuff with short course trucks and our slashes and whatnot, I was always the guy with the GoPro in the corner, and I'd make sure we're counting laps around the track. We'd have a point series, and we did that for a handful of seasons. There in Little Falls, we had a rotation to tracks. Started at Reiner's Raceway at Reiner's Road. Ultimately, we had another backyard track in my parents' backyard. And all of a sudden, we had a little mini series as I was coming of age, kind of grade school into high school. So that's kind of how I got started with all of this. And then I took a little bit of hiatus. I work in television, and I went to Manhattan College and studied broadcast journalism. So RC kind of took a back seat from like 2014 to 18. And then I rolled back into essentially my parents' house in 2019. And, a lot of my friends were still in the neighborhood, and they were like, hey, let's revive the racing league. And that's exactly what we did. So ever since 2019, it's kind of kept it going, kind of leveled up our YouTube channel with every video, every season. But yeah, the Backyard Racing League, we did that for, 4 seasons. And we were able to go from having, 3 tracks in a rotation with just our buddies to then getting some local kind of grassroots racers from neighboring areas. And as a sportscaster growing up, I kind of was able to use the mic and things like that and exercise that kind of itch, which was really cool on my commentaries and my kind of mock broadcast style videos. And I was ultimately able to tap a lot of kind of people in our industry, to do kind of color commentary over my videos. So it's been a really fun journey to this point, and it's led me to some pretty cool places too.
Yeah, just to jump in there, actually, there's the one of the tracks I think you're talking about. I was mountain biking up in back there in
Cedar Grove.
Yeah,
Of course.
I come across that little track one day. I'm up there, on my bike. I'm like, this is a little tiny dirt track in the middle of a friggin' woods, way off the beaten track.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, this is kind of goofy, but it looks like fun. And then I don't know how I stumbled across your YouTube videos, but like you had this like insanely well produced, like overly produced, multiple cameras,
Yeah.
multiple angles, goofy little short course race, but it was like production was insane. So that's
Mm.
kind of like how I had first seen what you'd done. I mean, I kind of thought, like, this guy's going to go places with this, and obviously you have done.
Yeah.
But and then obviously you raced Critters a little bit, right?
Sure.
I think
Yeah.
you did briefly.
Yeah.
So
That's my
why-
local club track. Yeah. Pretty
that's
much.
why I met you before. So
Exactly. Yeah. I will say, just in terms of these kind of mock broadcast style videos, it's one of those things where, I've always had an interest in sports and watching it on TV. And like, how about getting the content side of what we do as this kind of scaled motorsport with RC racing? How do we level that up? Right. And this has always kind of just been something that's been in the back of my head, and it's always kind of just been a work in progress. On the edit side, it takes a lot to get those kind of videos to a decent point, but with good discipline and a good workflow and structure, you can get it done. And yeah, I'm real happy that folks like yourself obviously took to it, but also so many more across the country and honestly internationally. Like, I got a lot of good support from people who race RC and things like that from all over the globe. It's really neat. It's been 5 good years, and I really see this kind of RC industry at a point where content is in an interesting place. So I mean, that's kind of, if I can have my input and if I could put a dent in the RC kind of racing industry in some way to help the greater good, help the cause, by all means. So I'm here for it.
Cam, you're definitely doing that, right? I mean, I think about, look, YouTube as a whole. I've had stuff break in my house. Matter of fact, an example, not too long, I stopped at my daughter's house and she has her whole washing machine apart. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Because I watched a video on YouTube that I learned how to fix it. And, but RC, look, it's intimidating to go to a track, right? There's sometimes emotions get high, right? Guys are competitive. And so it's hard to approach people and ask. And when you put the type of content up there, which looks amazing, right? You just make it so much easier for people to come to the track. All right, hey, I'm not starting on the ground floor. I'm already up and moving, right? I already feel comfortable with what's out there. People like you, and there's a lot of other ones out there as well. But look, I appreciate you guys doing that, because that's what's going to grow the hobby that all of us like.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, and I got to say, it's a true team effort. I was telling George when I was pitting with him at the barn, I associate what I do, albeit it's a scaled motorsport, but I can't help but think about it. There was a Kyle Larson documentary done last year, kind of following him around, and his approach with racing is kind of like, he's not one of those guys. He's not a gearhead. He's not like a mechanically inclined kind of guy, but what he can do is race his butt off, and then he can tell his crew chief what's wrong with it and fix stuff. So my kind of guy with that is Brent, who's someone who I've been working with pretty closely with RRL through, as far as I can remember. And he's always kind of that guy to offer those kind of tips. And obviously now being part of the, the Reedy regional development team, which is really cool underneath Vin Manchanda here. I've heard, or I've learned a lot in a short amount of time as we go through my YouTube channel, which is quite the catalog now at 86 videos. Hard to believe, but here we are.
it's good stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah. We in terms of like what we're doing on YouTube, it's just kind of showcasing the hobby in our region. There's actually this really cool track. They do a little bit of 8th scale racing, but mainly they've been leaning more 1/10 off-road. It's Insanity RC Racetrack in Boonton Township, New Jersey. The track owner name is Brian Lee. And last summer, I had the opportunity to do an invitational kind of event and then organize a trophy race there, or pardon me, a point series, more toward late summer, early fall. And, like similar to what Tom's saying, getting the kind of a track off the ground and getting the proper entries. It's all about just getting people to show up, and they seem to, enjoy it. So, we're happy to be running another event actually on June 9th. At Insanity. We're doing a bit of a truck race. So it's a 10th scale truck race for what it's worth. But just an opportunity. I'll have the cameras rolling, and hopefully we can capture some fun stuff.
Nice. Yeah.
So Cam,
I'd like to check it out.
Excellent.
Sorry about that, Ben.
No worries. Go ahead, buddy.
So Cam, 5 years, definitely a lot of time.
Yeah.
You mentioned you have some work history with the TV industry.
Yeah.
What do you do in the TV industry, and how does that help you in your YouTube or RC
projects?
RC projects?
Yeah.
I was saying more like I call you an RC influencer.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'll take it. I mean, anything you want to call me, by all means, George. You can call me whatever you want. I mean, listen, you've been racing longer than I've been alive, so you know,
Take it
Oh,
easy.
you're
sounds like an old joke, George.
No, it's okay.
Oh, like what the
Yeah,
fuck?
yeah, oh,
man,
you
we invited
fucker.
this guy here.
Hey,
Kicking us all in the balls.
hey, no.
Damn, I like you more already. Keep busting the stones. It's awesome.
All right. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, I mean, I've been grew up playing sports and like I said, racing RC. My dad's a studio cameraman. So I grew up kind of going to like the broadcast center at CBS, or he was the longtime cameraman for Inside Edition. He was actually the cameraman. Fun fact. He was the cameraman behind the scenes when Bill O'Reilly was like, "F it, we'll do it live." That was my dad's shot. So
That's really cool.
yeah,
Soundbite in every morning show.
that's right. So yeah, anyways, I mean, I work in the insert graphic design team at CBS Sports. I've been there since 2019. And yeah, I mean, initially before the pandemic, I was going in 5 times a week. And even then, that's when it kind of coincided with RC kind of getting back into my life. And they have these TVs playing all the time in the building. And half the time what would be happening, what they play and re-air at like 11 a.m. would be the Lucas Oil Off-Road Racing Series. So I'm watching these Pro 2s and Pro 4s just rip it around these cool tracks, multi-camera shoots, insert graphics going on and stuff. So, it kind of got the juices flowing at that point. And really ever since then, I've just kind of been evolving with that. I feel like as though this kind of hobby, this passion with RC has coincided with my career in a pretty good way. I've been really fortunate to be on the road for some pretty cool TV projects at CBS Sports recently with SRX, Tony Stewart's Racing League. The last 2 seasons, I was part of that at CBS for his 2nd season, as well as I was the graphic coordinator for SRX on ESPN last summer too. So I've been up close to these kind of full scale motorsports a little bit more and more, and I can't help but think that there's a place with RC too. And I've been able to get tapped for some pretty cool projects. Along the way with Mod Live Media. I worked the IFMAR 110 scale electric off-road world championships
Right.
in September in Chandler, Arizona. And that was kind of a who's who. And it also kind of gave me the confidence, like, hey, even though we are here in Northern, the Northeast, right? Like we have some dudes here for sure. Like yourselves, we got a whole panel of people, but you really realize this is a worldwide thing. You're having these cool conversations with Ray Monday, like he's one of the other guys, for instance. And yeah, I mean, it was a real kind of a fresh wind underneath the sails. And it's just led me to where I am now, ultimately getting this kind of cool sponsorship opportunity with Reedy and kind of leveling up my 1/8 scale off-road, racing lately too, because I'm still pretty new with all that stuff. But I like the challenge, and I think Tom alluded to it before, those 7th place battles and stuff, I'm there, and I'm in the thick of it, and I want to continue to be in the thick of it at 27 years old and beyond, and just help the RC cause.
That's awesome.
Not the cause, my friend. It's a brotherhood at the end of the day, and that's what you find out. It's a remote control brotherhood, whether you're flying planes, doing boats, doing oval, it doesn't matter, man. Anybody who's got a remote in their hand is basically a brother of ours. That's what I found out through the years. So I think you're doing great stuff for it.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I hear you loud and clear.
So as I was doing some research on your channel, of course, I stumbled upon this, interview that you did with Ty Testament. So how does a guy like you that, has more of a 10 scale background, only developing channel for a couple of years, very limited in A scale, basically the last year, right? How do you get the confidence to reach out to a guy like Ty? And then how did you develop, your questioning to Ty? Because you weren't in the A scale arena. So how did you approach that so that, viewers and your conversation with Ty basically, fell into place about the storyline content?
Yeah, most definitely. I consider myself a bit of a history buff. And when it comes to RC, I think I like to try to learn more and more about the people who stepped here before me, whether it's looking at race reports like we kind of just ran through, getting an idea of who's who, and also looking at, documentary type videos that are on the internet, right? I'm a big fan of 5150 Media Productions. They've done a lot of good work on YouTube, and I've kind of listened or watched a lot of his content over the years. A big inspiration of mine, and a lot of those videos featured Ty Tessman. He was one of those guys who was everywhere. So ultimately, when I got the opportunity to work with Matt Olson and Mod Live Media, I kind of served as a pit reporter of sorts and kind of managed his YouTube page for the World Championships in September. So I was kind of getting these post-race interviews with a lot of the fast guys, kind of just getting their reactions. And I ultimately kind of sizzled down a lot of the live stream for, kind of short-term content. And one of the guys who I happened to interview was Ty, because I don't think he, 10 scale obviously is not really his jam, but, he wasn't having the best run. But obviously you want to get a word from someone like him, right? And I did. And that's kind of how it was. It was a bit of a networking kind of who's who event, and I was, there for it. And there was a banquet at the end of that week-long event, and I was just literally about to catch a plane kind of thing that night, saying my goodbyes to these people who I've seen online rip it up and been obviously big inspirations over the years in RC and big kind of mentors. And I had a good moment with Ty and his dad, and ultimately I was like, hey, I'd love to, I do this kind of backyard racing mock broadcast style video. I have something in mind. Would you be interested in doing it? And he said, yeah, sure. Let's talk to me in December at that point. And this is before he was, ultimately considering retirement. I don't think that was in the cards or public knowledge. Right. So it pretty much was one of those things where, okay, I was like, I got Ty in the back pocket. I have a few more videos to cut and then I'll get to him. And I ended up reaching out to him. I gave it about a month or so to settle down in January. And it kind of was a perfect storm. I think that was a 4-wheel drive buggy video. And he was, ultimately open to the interview and doing that kind of cool mock broadcast style commentary with me. And it really worked out. He is obviously a man of faith and a man who's, driven to put his best foot forward. And he's had a long racing career. And what I left from that conversation the most was, and obviously he's a pro's pro, a true competitor. Like, he told me, I asked if he would be willing to maybe return to the scene and race competitively again. He's like, he takes his foot off the gas for even a few months, a year, whatever. He's going to lose all that time. And it's like he's given that kind of respect to the industry and RC racing, because he knows that once he takes his foot off that gas, it's not going to be there anymore. So that was kind of that moment that I captured, and it was pretty cool to hear from Ty. I'm real happy he was able to hop on it and share those words.
Toby's got a little bit of that interview queued up. I was hoping we could hear like the first 30 seconds of it, just so people, if they haven't seen your content, can get a little bit of feeling.
Sure.
Till he gets that ready to go. So, man of faith goes without saying, right? Everybody's seen that from Ty. Other guys like Tebow, other guys like Ryan Lutz. Important. It's also rare in today's day and age. So I often respect those guys when they say it, because not many people say it today. So it's good to see those stand out.
Absolutely.
The other thing is, Ty is one of those guys from the videos that I've seen. I got an opportunity to talk to him once. Got one of his tires up there on the wall. Thank goodness, before he retired. But I found, I met Mayfield. I met a couple of the other guys. Ty by far, Ty and Lutz were probably the most modest guys that I met so far. Ty was super gracious. He was busy. I interrupted him. Even his dad, I had a nice talk with his dad along the fence line at LCRC. Definitely stands out in my mind as a gentleman racer. Ty is also one of these guys that, he grew up as a young man in the hobby with his dad around the whole time, right? It's hard to be yourself, be your own personality with your pop with you the whole time. So I think Ty's gotten into one of these things now. He's a man. He's had a kid or having a kid, and, he's focused on the long game and not the short game. He's already proven himself in RC. Doesn't really need to do that again, right? So he's trying to basically backstop his RC career with a way to make money. And who knows, maybe he's the guy that just comes in and, drops the mic in an event when all of a sudden you see his name, thrown in there. You're like, holy shit, Ty showed up.
if there's ever an influencer at this point, he's that kind of guy. You know, he's
Sure.
a true kind of influencer, honestly, because he has that kind of resume with racing to speak to that.
And as people watch Ty, I think, you know, they have to get accustomed to somebody that they're literally watching. You know, for us, we see it more because we're a little bit older. We can see the growth and the maturity. But, you know, people are watching this guy grow up over the last 5 or 6 years. It's not like some of the other guys you can see. They're already grown, right? So you're seeing a guy develop facial hair, become mature, get married as he's going through this whole, you know, ritual of being an RC pro and then deciding, hey, man, you know, I'm going to get a real job. But, hey, Toby, do you have can you play the first 30 seconds of that Ty Testament video?
In theory. Wait a second here. I lost my mouse.
No
There you
problem. I'm
go.
sure Vinny or Tom has something they can input and fill the gap.
Hang on a
Vinny,
second.
Tom, any questions for Cam?
Let me know if you can hear the sound here.
So here we go.
Does that come up at you, girl?
I don't think it's quite so like sunk in yet. I obviously know like all the success we've had and the innovations that me and my dad have come up with over the years, but I don't really see myself as that. I got a little taste of it, I guess, when people come up to you and they want an autograph or something. It kind of makes me realize a little bit that how popular I was in the RC community, but at the same time, I try to keep myself humble and not let that go to my head. So it's kind of a balance. It's definitely a weird feeling now that I'm not racing. I'm just watching the races, but it is nice to have a change of lifestyle and moving forward with a kind of a regular life, I call it now, is exciting, and it's definitely different, but I'm enjoying it.
I'm happy.
There we go. Little snippet.
Little snippet. Sorry, we didn't get a little bit of your interview style in there.
Yeah. It's a lot like Boomer and Geo on CBS Sports Network. It's very similar to that kind of talk radio kind of video vibe I was going for there.
That's what I liked about it. You know, there's so many different styles that are out there, and your style is unique and thorough, and you're very confident in what you're trying to get across. So I think that comes through for sure.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah, we'll keep it going. See what's next. I did some work with J Concepts at Motorama. One of those other kind of great deals that I had, getting the chance to meet Jason Rona over at the World Championships in September. Did some interview work with him and ultimately reached out to say, hey, you know, love to work with you, try to do some kind of documentary on Motorama this past year. So that video was another good one, another good opportunity to kind of flex my production skills and knowledge and whatnot, and you know, help the cause, pay it forward.
Yeah, he actually spoke on his RIP podcast. He spoke highly of you and said you did a great job with that, and that your production quality is amazing. Of course,
appreciate it. Thank you very much. Yeah, he said, and I remember hearing that on the podcast as well. And he's like, "Hey Cam, you want to do another one? Say the word." So, you know, here I am kind of thinking about my next project with J Concepts, which would be really cool. And outside looking in, obviously we're pumping up the Northeast, right? So I'm thinking, you know, the race going down at the end of late August at G's, right? Another national race with 8th scale. Yep. So that's one of the, yep, exactly. So that's one of those that I think, you know, if it all plays out, could be one of those things that I can hopefully get a chance to work on and help the cause.
Awesome. We'll be there.
Yeah. Well, even better. Now I have a place to stay.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. No, G's is awesome. Garland Smith is the vice president of Roar right now. And you won't find, I mean, he is such a gem of a guy. He's like a big teddy bear. He's had a couple of health issues lately. He's worked through them, and the guy works really hard. You want to talk about somebody who's really passionate about RC? You know, his whole family is awesome. Shout out to the Smith family.
Anybody in his position who have taken that role, knowing the pothole of shit they were seeping into, you know, you got to give him a lot of credit. I mean, he knew from day one he was going to be taking a lot of bullets from a lot of people with a lot of complaints over the years. But from what I see and from what I've been hearing, right, guy seems to, you know, be putting it forward, making changes, good ones.
Yep, man. Now he's part of a great team. So they've really changed things. So got some good people on there. Clayton Young, Brent Densford's on there, among others.
Yep, I saw that this past year. That was a good move. I mean, he's so involved in the hobby between, being a race promoter and having one of the biggest online shops. Makes sense. He wants to make sure things go right. Sometimes you got to have people vested in the hobby, part of the board. Some people feel that can be, um, counterintuitive, but I think, it's like having a president. I'm not saying, one way or another. I'm not making any comment, but at the end of the day, I think it's important for any leader of any organization. He's got to understand business. If there's a business revolved around what's going on. So anyway, Cam, Vinny suggested and brought up your name. I thought it was a great idea. I mentioned it to the other guys. They were totally supportive. Anything that we can do to, bring some more exposure, experience. You paying it forward for the hobby, following a nationals at G's or, doing coverage at Motorama, talking to Jason from J Concepts. Those are all amazing things. You're a young guy in some capacity. You're half, our age, some of us on here, like myself. But aside from that, when we're rusty, I can't race or my voice doesn't work anymore. It's great to know there's going to be other guys like you out there that are still passionate about the hobby, doing amazing content. And I can only imagine where your content's going to be 5 years from now with all the other tools and AI that's out there. So I think I'm not the only one to say we're really excited to see where you're going to go with your channel.
Thanks, George. I appreciate that. I'll have to come back on. We can do a state of RC media kind of special edition.
Nice.
I'm happy to talk a little bit about that because I have my take and whatnot. But yeah, I got a video coming out soon. I was just at Barnstormers, so I kind of documented my racing journey on that day a little bit better than my race at Trains and Lanes. So I also captured Aiden ripping it up in e-buggy as well. So we'll get young Aiden Manchanda on there. And I also have to pay a visit to both LCRC as well as Rhythm. I'm definitely due for a trip there. So it's a matter of when, essentially, but it will happen this summer.
You should come out for the Mugen challenge.
All right, good deal. Noted. Say no more.
Yeah, it'll be a zoo of people.
I'll be there to help you.
Cam's an
Excellent.
RC guy. You have to twist that arm real hard.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah, that was tough.
So, Cam, what's your favorite class right now that you're running?
It's got to be short course.
Yeah, I mean it's just that's my bread and butter. 2-wheel drive, mod short course.
Nice, the hard one.
Yeah. I'm a team associated guy. Ever since I jumped from Trax to Slash, I got that bug from my buddy Brent Post. Since he does a lot of my kind of hardcore kind of mechanic work and looking out for me, so I've kind of just followed suit with him for the most part. But yeah, I have an SE 6.1 that I still rip around on these kind of loose dirt tracks. I did acquire an SE 6.4 that I want to get going on kind of more high bite clay surfaces, probably more toward the fall once outdoor season wraps up. So I would say 2-wheel short course is my jam. I'm looking forward to having that out at Insanity in early June for that truck race. That'll be really fun.
Cool. Any future classes that you're looking to get going?
I know, Vin, you're pushing nitro on me a little bit. I hear that. Man, I mean, I want to handle e-buggy. I want to get my head around that class. I think 8th scale is something that obviously is your ticket to these bigger, better classes. Tracks, and it gives you a reason to travel a little bit more. So I would say, if anything, e-truggy. I think that would be a class that I could see myself kind of getting toward. But for now, I have a good rotation with 10th scale. I got my 2-wheel, 4-wheel buggies and my 2-wheel mod short course, and I have the e-buggy going. So I got my hands full.
I think that the best solution is to do e-truggy and then be a pit guy.
Okay. Talk to me about being a pit guy.
Us nitro guys just need pit guys.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Well, Toby, at the Mugen Challenge, maybe if you need a hand.
There always in a shortage. I'm pitting with a guy now. He's an electric guy. I'm like, you get a nitro buggy and the friendship's over.
Man.
But it is a good way, if you are interested in nitro for the future, that's a great way to start and to see what it entails, what you need to do. In the beginning, you can keep it simple at a couple club races, help some people out, and just, put them down in their main, fill them up, put them down. Sure. And if it's a higher main, they're going to be, they're going to come in for pit stops. So it'll kind of be, if they make it, baptism by fire. And that's how it starts. And then all of a sudden you want your own.
Yeah, I could see it. Just get me out to these 8th scale events a little bit more, and I'm sure it's a matter of time.
Well, listen, you got an open invite to ride with us to all the race time events because we're going. So we'd love to have you, and you can do video there. You can run yourself. You can, I think you'll have a great time. And, Jason will probably be there as well.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of the thing, right? Is it RC racer? I asked Roach RC this question the other. I had him on one of my videos that I did 2 years ago. I was like, "Hey, are you putting YouTube first? Are you putting your racing first?" And he says, he puts his racing first. I feel as though I've kind of organized a little bit more events. I'm not just rolling in by myself. So I kind of am trying to figure out that dynamic as we kind of march on here. It's like, hey, are we racing or are we here to capture it? And it's been a fun dance with that. I'm sure some media people in this industry can relate to that a little bit too, because you want to be on the track, you want to perform, but also you want to tell your story and get it out there if you have a good angle on it, and you want to share it.
It's hard to do both great.
I'd say, yeah.
Right.
Thank goodness for GoPros. Thank
it.
goodness for GoPros. Yeah.
And video editing software.
Got 3 of them.
That's right.
The only thing that I haven't heard, and before we move on to the next segment, which is Vin covering our setup section, is we have one of our panelists who's, to my knowledge, right, other than the other media companies, I guess it's Lifetime, or somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, but Toby does amazing race coverage. He covered Motorama, multiple angles, something he's been developing with 46 RC Race Media. So Toby, what do you see in Cam, or what advice can you offer him? Especially, you've been doing it probably longer. I don't know if more advanced because Cam's in the business, and you do it as a side hustle. It's something you love as another hobby. But what do you see in what he does versus what you do? And can you offer Cam any type of advice?
I don't know about advice because he's probably, he's young and smart. And I mean, that my focus is more on the live streaming stuff, as it happens, that's my real interest. Trying to give people the insight into things that are happening on track, wherever. Something that always drew me to racing when I first got started. You'd see these tracks and you know what the fuck was going on. So bringing that presentation to people, that live stream. So, but Cam, I think your post-production stuff is, off the charts. So
Thanks, Toby.
I'm actually trying to employ my son, I think you met him.
Yeah.
Lucas, he's working on, we talked a little bit about him chatting to you, but he's been busy doing some, trying to do some production assistant stuff and some voluntary stuff. He's in the city right now. He's just trying to get out there and learn some of this. So I've had him do a little post-production stuff for me, but I mean, I think what you do complements the live streaming stuff. I'm sure when you work with Matt out at the 10 scale world tour, nationals, whatever it was, I'm sure you were heavily involved in some of that post-production stuff. So it's as important, as the live stuff, one thing I had Lucas do a Motorama, and he was totally into, was going out, grabbing a bunch of coverage, producing a little package, and then we could insert that, during the live feed. That's kind of like the perfect mix, of both categories of presentation. So
that's kind of my tagline on YouTube: elevated RC productions. Right. And I think both of us in the streaming capacity, as well as like kind of just a YouTube video capacity, that's kind of the goal, right? We want to make sure if you're watching, you're able to see who's doing what on camera on a track. So I think that's really important, and something that I really value with RC racing too, because you want to have that kind of bar set and you want to continue to push it forward. And showcase these awesome tracks that we go to, and bring to life the people who make it happen too along the way.
For sure.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So Cam, before we part from your segment, move on
Yeah.
to Vinny's. Remember what the proper description of what we do is? Remember I showed you on the binder of that book?
Oh, of the invisible speed?
Yep.
Oh, no, I don't. I'd be lying if I knew. What is it? Give it to me.
So it's all good, bro. What we do, right? You were saying we don't this is like I don't want to say an argument, but it's like, a debated play on words in our hobby. Excuse
Yeah.
me. We're trying to figure out the way to get it out. Some of the guys when we go racing, they have an aspect they're going out to play for the weekend,
Oh, yes.
right?
I
Remember
see
we
where this is
talked
going.
about this, right?
Of course.
And
Of
then
course.
some of us
Yeah.
don't, right? Some of us, like when I go racing for the weekend, I am not leaving my house to go fucking play. That is for sure. I'm
No.
going out to battle. That's what's in my head. I'm looking for
Yeah.
competing and doing well. I know Toby will laugh a little bit, right? So everybody's got a little bit different perspective on it. But I know when Vinny's leaving the house, Vinny and Aiden are not going to play. They're going to show. They've been working
Business.
hard. It's a business. So I like to say I pilot my car, right? Or, I can be a driver for sure. I like to say pilot, but at the end of the day, what we do is a division of Scale Motorsports. And
Yep.
that's how I like to describe, which is exactly how JQ describes the edge of his book, right? Toby's always got, that's the old English humor for you. Anyway, Scale Motorsports is important. That's
Yeah.
something you and I were talking about for your channel, right? Because that's what you're covering, right? It's a Scale Motorsport. And that's one of the things I think that's probably most important as the media progresses in our hobby and in our industry. The more it's described as a Scale Motorsport versus remote control racing, I think has a better attraction. It's got a better like sales line. It's got a better promotion tagline to it, a Scale Motorsport. So anyway, I just like keep that in mind.
Amen. And that's not to say that this isn't all entertainment at the end of the day. You have to keep it something that viewers want to tune into and watch and can appreciate. So even if, it has a serious kind of connotation or something, you can still make fun out of that. You can, fun's what you make of it. And that's what I value on our page is just that kind of cool creativity and, kind of approaching that video from that kind of space. Like, how do I make something that a viewer would enjoy? And kind of digestible. So I hear you loud and clear. Scale Motorsports.
That's it.
Yeah.
With that being said, I just want to say thank you very much for coming on to our podcast and sitting with our group of panelists here. We don't want you to go anywhere. We want you to hang tight, just like you did for the first hour waiting to come on.
Sure.
We're going to move to our next segment, which is basically our setup section. Vin Manchenda runs this section, and I believe this week's segment is based on baseline setup. Take it away, Vin.
Absolutely. We're talking about baseline setup today. Guys, before I start this, please remember to like and share if you can. It helps us out a lot. And yeah, if you have a topic that you want me to talk about, go ahead and shoot me a message and we'll incorporate it into the show. But baseline setup, it's really important. When a car is set up well and it's set up to suit the driver, it's going to lead to better results. All right. In order to set up the car for success, you should start with a good baseline setup. And because each driver has their own driving style, it's important to go and practice and test often as you can at your local track. So the conclusion will be your preferred or baseline setup. So let's get to it. So step one is preparation. You got to prepare your cars correctly. They have to be ready to go. I know before we leave the house, our cars are ready to practice. They have batteries in them. The rod height's already been set. Camber's been checked. We might even check it one last time before we drop it on the track. But we're ready to go when we go to the track. So some things that you want to prep: tires. You're going to need a range of tires, whether it's a range of compounds, but you need to talk to your local fast guys, see what works, and figure out what tires you need to have in your arsenal. We run J Concepts tires. We love having the Reflex in there. Every single compound, that's a go-to tire that works everywhere. You're going to see relapse working on a lot of tracks that are starting to get grooved up And we could go on and on about tires, but having the right tires is definitely key. Another thing that you really want to keep in your bag of parts are going to be oils. You're going to want to adjust oils. Temperature might change. You need to adjust your shock oil. Grip might change. You need to adjust your diff oil. So for shock oils, I like to keep a range of like 35 to 50 weight. And once again, these are for the AE cars. Every car is different. So your range might be different. But for the diffs, anywhere from 5K up to like 30K for an LTC center diff. Even higher, 40, 50 actually, but not usually. So good to have a good spread of oils or pick them up slowly as you need them at the hobby shop. Sway bars and springs. You're going to need, you're going to start with your baseline. You're going to need to have a set of springs that are a little bit softer. You're going to need to have a set of springs that are a little bit stiffer. Grip comes up, it's a really smooth track, or inversely, it's low grip and you need more weight transfer. And then at the same time, it's bumpy. You're going to want to go to something softer. So, so good to have a good array of those parts. And then, of course, you want some option parts. You want stuff to take with you to go test. You want to have spares. Some brands, the spares are at the hobby shop. Some of them, you better have them with you because they're hard to find. So just know your brand and know what you need to bring with you. And then on to maintenance. Before we make changes to our chassis, and before we start, testing different setups, we need to make sure that everything is maintained correctly. Take it apart after a big race. We like to throw a lot of our parts, into the sonic cleaner. Of course, we take our bearings out before we clean them separately. We take our hinge pins out. We polish those before we put them back in. The steering links should be measured. In fact, I have a brand new car right here. Let me see if I can show this to you. But these are the steering links. Well, can you see that? Well, no, you can't. Hold on. Let me turn it around. So yeah, right here, these steering links right here, both sides. Where is it? On this side, this and this, they should be the same length. Okay. And then inside here, it's hard for you guys to see, but right here on the AE car, there's two little screws. You want to kind of just center them up, and you can center your rack to your steering servo, which connects to this. And obviously the car that's not finished being built here, but you want to make sure that's all centered up, and you want to make sure those lengths are the same left and right. And that's going to lead to more predictable steering. And when those aren't right, I see a lot of people come to me, and that's the first thing I check. The other thing I'll check is the little servo saver. If you can see it down there, where is it? Right here. I like to tighten that up almost all the way. Even though the manual says tighten it to this level, I crank that thing down. So little things like that, but especially the steering, you really need to make sure that's built right and it's symmetrical left to right. That rack has to be centered. That servo saver has to be tight. And then once all that's done and that servo's installed correctly, it's centered, then you want to adjust your endpoints. So that's where it stops, left and right. So if you go past where it stops and the servo's constantly pushing, you're going to burn your servo out. And then you're going to be like, oh, that servo was horrible. But really, we didn't set our endpoints correctly. And it's important to do that and then turn your dual rate down a little bit, and that's a lesson for another time. But these are important adjustments to make and make sure that those are good. The other thing is your ESC calibration. A lot of people forget that they need to not only install their ESC and have it in neutral, but you need to calibrate full throttle and full reverse. And, when we put our ESCs in, I have one here. One of the first things we do, we install it, and then we use this little programmer here to program the settings. Like I'll turn the BEC voltage from 6 up to 7.4. I usually like to run a little reverse in mine, so I'll do forward brake reverse. There's a lot of settings. I like to turn it down depending on what class it is. I'll adjust the drive frequency, and this is all a lesson for another time, but really, really important to do. Set up your ESC correctly. And on the reedies, we have a switch here, and all we have to do when we turn it on, we hold this switch, okay, and it's basically going to go into like a different mode where it's a calibration mode. So you're going to start with neutral, and then you're going to hit the button, and then you're going to go full throttle, hit the button. You'll see a different light come on here, then end with reverse and hit the button. And then that's how you calibrate your ESC. So if you need to know how to do it, this little manual comes with it. It says it right here, shows a picture. Whoa, where is it? Right here of this guy, and calibrations up here. So real easy to do, but something you need to know about, and makes a big difference on how you, your performance. Nitro, I mean, that's you have an extra level of prep with nitro. You need to make sure you have a fresh clutch. You need to make sure you have extra glow plugs and a fresh glow plug for the main. Make sure your linkages are set correctly. Your endpoints are set correctly. Your brake bias is set correctly. A lot to know. And coming off of nitro, thread lock is your friend. So any grub screws that are metal to metal, make sure you clean those grub screws off first with a little contact cleaner or brake cleaner, then add thread lock to them. Now, some people even on the driveline components, they'll even mix blue and red together to make like a purple. So I know a lot of guys will do that and make like a purple Loctite and run those. And then, yeah, so then the next thing that I want to explain to you guys that is a really huge help is I'm going to show you guys real quick here is the SoDialed app. Okay, it's loading up right now. Okay, this thing is absolutely amazing. All right, so if you're looking for a setup, all you have to do, you go here like on this, you guys can see all the different cars that are on there. Those are all my setups. Okay, now if I want to find somebody else's setup, see that little red dot down there on find setup, I just hit that. Okay, and these are all the people that have updated their setups. Look at that, I'm up top, but Scotty Brewer's right underneath me. Then you got Aiden, who just updated. All the Barnstormer setups are in there. LCRC's in there. Trains and Lanes is in there. Adrenaline's in there. We got Crispy Critters in there for Cam. We have even the track in Gaithersburg, Maryland. I believe RC Madness is in there. Basically, everywhere we go, you can see shout out to Taylor DeLosa for putting a couple up there himself. So you got a lot of good guys. Spencer Rifkin's in here. We got Lee Setzer is in here. Here's Dylan with a setup from the track in Gaithersburg, Maryland. Roy Atkinson. Just a lot of guys that you may or may not know. International as well. I can't pronounce this guy's name, so I'm not gonna. And yeah, definitely check it out. Find setups. Okay, so what's really great about this is once you do get into your setup here, okay, we're just going to click on Barnstormers real quick. Okay, and you kind of see right here where you can go through and you can actually see every single setting, and you can go through and overlay your setting, your setup on top of mine, and it'll tell you what the difference is. And then on top of that, if you go to this like ARM inserts, okay, you want to know what that is. Setup tips right here, caster and kickup. Boom, you hit that, and it explains what caster is right there, which you guys already know what caster and kickup is because I went over it already. But anyway, in all seriousness, get this app, download it, check it out. It's really great for RC, and it's great for people to learn how to set up their cars and what you just want to test with. Look at somebody else's. Okay, Fast Guy's got this and this. His Ackerman is different. He's on stiffer springs. He's on this and that. So, yeah, I love this app. So please try it. If you guys have questions about this app, don't feel shy. Like, hit me up. I don't mind helping you out on Messenger, Facebook Messenger. If I don't get back to you right away, it's because I'm busy. I'm working, and I'll get back to you soon. So definitely check that out. All right. I'm not done yet, guys. Hold on. All right. So the next step, all right, next thing we need to talk about is practice. All right. As
You're talking about practice.
That's
Yeah,
it.
Toby, where's the Iverson picture? That's gonna come up. You should have that.
Yeah,
Right?
a little slow getting that one ready.
So as JQ says, practice with a purpose. Okay. So make one change at a time. Another thing he says, record it on SoDialed. Especially if you check out. So should I do this change? I don't know. Read about it. Okay, I'm going to try this. Try it. If it works, record it. If it doesn't, change it back. So by making one change at a time, you are going to teach yourself setup. And that's it. You have to figure out what your driving style is, not what Aiden's driving style is, because his car is going to be hard to drive. You got to figure out what, somebody who's basically it's like you got to find a driving style that works for you. Where you throttle through the corners, everything is going to be different. So bleed your shocks every couple of runs. A lot of people forget, if you run emulsion shocks, make sure you bleed them. Otherwise, they pack up. All of a sudden, you have too much rebound, and the car is doing funny things on you. So that's another little tip. When you go to practice, make sure that you're going to bleed your shocks and keep it consistent from run to run. Check your ride height. Check your camber every run. Get into the groove of doing that. So there's a couple different ways to check your ride height. We talked about it. I like this little JC tool right here. That's a great way to go. You want to just use this behind the kick up and then, right underneath the C block for the rear. Your camber tool right here. Another great JC tool. What else do we have? Droop gauge to check your droop. Of course, a little nut. But then you also want to be able to adjust things like your toe and your rear camber with tools like this. There's the JC equivalent. So bring all your setup tools, maybe a setup board, and check that ride height. And camber. All right. So basically you're out there, what you're testing for is you're looking for your driving style, and your pace is going to change as you pick up your skills. So as your pace changes, your demands from the car are going to change. For example, a newer driver will want a softer setup with more overall grip. A faster driver is going to want a stiffer car with more instant grip, or initial grip, excuse me. So what do we test? What do we go out there and test? Well, figure out your relatively slowest part of the track. If you're having trouble with one section, maybe there's a whoop section and your car just can't get through it. That's what you need to set up for first. And you need to make sure that your slowest part of the track now becomes at least a moderate pace, and this is going to bring down your overall lap time. So go to adjust that first, and then figure out, what you need to do, maybe using your SoDialed app to make those changes. One of the biggest things, test tires, talk to people, go out there and, make sure your tire game better than the next guy, and that's going to give you a solid advantage. You definitely check SoDial, look at other people's setups, overlay, and test one thing at a time. Those springs and the sway bars, they're going to make a big difference. And, you're going to need to test diffs, droop, Ackerman, hub height, toe, see what works the best for your driving. In conclusion, you should be able to place your car anywhere on the track deliberately, inside of the corner, outside of the corner. You need to be able to control your car and make it do what you needed to do when you needed to do it. So the car should be consistent, and it should be fast everywhere on the track, inside on the corner, through the ruts, through the bumps. That's any questions? You guys still with me?
No questions, Ben, but there's a few things I just wanted to, I thought it was all good stuff.
Taking notes over here.
I've been doing this for a while, and I'm still learning from you every time you come out there. But, just to reiterate one thing, make sure everybody, as you're changing things on your car, make sure you're back and resetting everything, right? Double check that ride height. You change springs, you got to check that ride height again.
Right.
Change your shock wheel, got to change ride height again. Check ride height. Check. I try to do it. Look, typically most races we're going to, we've got a few hours, or at least an hour or two between your heats. Take that time to just get your car reset, get back to that baseline setting, so that you're got consistent data. You guys told me before, I love my data, so I think that's cool. The other thing I think is important is, and I'm trying to do better at this myself because I'm not always good at it, but practice with a purpose, right? We go out there I just want to run the car. I'm having fun driving, but, practice with a purpose, right? Think about it. Hey, where's my car not right at? I need more steering. Well, where do you need more steering? You need more steering going into the turn, more steering coming out of the turn. Is it off power, on power? Where are you finding your hiccups? And practice with a purpose is critical, because then you can go to somebody like a Vin or Toby or whomever, come to me and say,
Don't
hey,
come to me.
we're steering coming out of the turn, because it's a different thing. So I think that's really good advice, Ben. And then the last thing for me, which I don't do, which I need to start doing, Vin, I watch you and the boys. A lot of times, especially like an LCRC event, right? It's a 3-day event. We're kind of anxious to get home. At least I am. But I noticed you guys spend some time at the end of the day trying some things, because the track you get on when we get to a track on Thursday and what that track is on Sunday are two totally different tracks.
Yep.
And if you're not able to learn what you need to change and evolve to as the race weekend progresses, you're leaving time on the table. And again, I'm guilty of that. Look, I find myself, my first round always seems to be my best round. But as the track evolves, I don't always change my setup enough to match that. So, look, I see Aiden, I see Dylan, I see those guys really progressing fast. But one of the things I see them doing a lot of is burning a few tanks or going through a few packs at the end of the race weekend and trying different things on the track. Because then I guess you would agree, right? Your starting setup on Thursday compared to what you end up on Sunday are two different things. Maybe not significant, but there's certainly some changes along the way.
Yeah, well, it depends. The track is alive, man. That's your other competitor. So you have to see how is it getting bumpy? Then we need to make changes. Is the temperature changing? We need to make changes. Did something change on the track? Did the grip level come up? The grip level usually does. Let's say at LCRC, we have all of a sudden you have a groove right in the middle, and then everywhere else it's dusty as can be. So you better be on the right tire, and you better stay in the groove. And if you can't do that, you're going to have trouble, and you're going to fall back. And when the track gets bumpier, there's all kinds of things to change and do, without trying to fall off the pace too much, because you made, every change has an inverse and, has two different effects. So you just got to remember that.
Great advice, Finn.
Been an awesome segment, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
I was typing in the side notes. I think you finally got into your groove, bro. Nice and relaxed, and besides informative, but
thanks, man.
Yeah,
Having
really
fun.
good.
Having fun.
Awesome, dude. That's the whole fucking point. You covered a great range of topics. I thought it was going to be a little bit more like baseline setup on a car, but you covered a lot of baseline things that were important, not just baseline setup on a car, from clutches to ESCs and diff oils and the real quick gamut. Biggest takeaway I think that I heard is run at a pace that's comfortable for you. Speed will come on naturally, right? That's super important. A lot of guys don't understand that. The more time you spend doing laps, automatically you become faster because you're more comfortable. But when you go out there and squeeze fat finger and hit every pipe every time, you never get anywhere. And,
I always thought speed is a byproduct of proper technique. So if you go out there and you test and you practice, every time you test, you practice with a purpose, and you come away with something. So now they're just more building blocks. And then you come back to test the next time, you already have a foundation. You have that baseline setup. Now you're going to make that baseline setup better and better every time you go out there and test. And then if you can take that baseline setup and also have an A-main setup, which is what we do, we stay after. And like Monday after LCRC, I was there by myself testing the nitro car and seeing what we can do to get a little bit more speed out of it next time we go back there for that A-main.
Last thing that you had said, which is as equally as important as speed will come with progression, is the ability to place your car where you want to and when you want to. That's control of your car. When you have that kind of control, then you can start really competing, because ultimately that's what you need to do in a competition. So anyway, great stuff, Vin. Thanks for providing that content.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Vin, I got a quick question.
Sure,
This
bud.
is a rookie question. Droop. What's the story with Droop Gauge? Can you answer it in 30 seconds?
I don't know if I can answer in 30 seconds, but I'll try.
Toby, oy vey.
So hold on, let me
Drew? Are we talking Drew?
Aiden, you got a car for me, buddy? All All right. This car might not be clean, but I'm just going to
Okay.
show you real
Oh yeah,
quick.
where's Aiden been all night? I thought he was.
He literally
He's out
just
The
driving.
birthday boy.
He's got his license.
There
He's
he
out
is.
driving around.
he took everyone out to dinner. So look, I just take this little droop gauge, and there's more than one way to check the droop. Okay, but you just take this side, right? So
Okay.
I'll just stick this over the nut right here. Can you see this?
Mhm.
And then, if you can see there, that little circle in the middle of our lower mount,
Mhm.
that shock pin right there, that's
Mhm.
I can't read it because it's so small, but
like
that
100.
basically, there you go. So this should be like 101 or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. It's 101.
Okay.
Okay. So that's basically how you check it. And then the back is the same deal,
thing. Yeah.
pretty much.
So Cam, how that's going to relate to you, Cam?
Yeah.
Right? Say you
Yeah.
want your car to have more steering off power, right? You want to load more weight onto the nose off power. You would give the back of the car more droop. It will allow the back end of the car to come up higher, basically placing more weight on the front end.
Mm.
Inversely, if it has too much off power steering, you could take some droop away, but keep more weight in the back end, and it would keep the ass end of the car more planted. And the same thing kind of happens in reverse on the front end. The front end, if you need more steering on power, you maybe add a little bit, you take away some front droop. And if you want less, you can add more droop. It's just a matter of it's basically how much is the car shifting forward and backward on and off power. And it's always a compromise. One way or the other, it's always a compromise. You're going to take from one to give to the other. But it's a very often overlooked setup thing that can be done. And it's actually one of the easier things to do.
Looks like it. More droop, the higher the number.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Got it. Cool.
And some of like on the HB cars, how we measure is we use a droop block we put underneath the car.
Yes.
That's 36 millimeters high, and just measure how far it is below the chassis or above the chassis. Usually the back end is below the chassis, it hangs down below the chassis, and on the front end sometimes it's even or could be even above the chassis, and it's something you have to mess with.
That's
But it's one of those things that if you don't want to be 100% precise with it, a lot of times they can be made pretty quick. You can go on the track, have somebody with you, and say, "Hey, I need a little bit more off-power steering." Ask someone to give you more droop, and they could go on there and just almost like a nitro car, so give me a half a turn of my droop screws in the back, and be real quick and feel what the difference is, and that just adds to your knowledge base.
Yeah, that technique that Tom's talking about. There's a David Ronifolk video on YouTube. You guys just search Ronifolk droop, you'll come right up.
Nice.
Good
And
deal.
that is the most accurate way to do it, is to use the droop blocks and measure it. It's a little bit more time consuming, but it is more accurate. And we're actually waiting for some droop blocks. Otherwise, we'd be doing it that way too.
Cool mention. Good info. We're about to hit the 2-hour mark, so we're going to keep this show on the road. I know Toby's got some race information forecasting on some of the events coming up at the local tracks. So we're going to kick it back to Toby.
Oh, yeah, that. That's one thing I didn't get. Let me just pull up my calendar real quick. May. So June already. Holy crap.
We can give you time for a few seconds. Tom, why don't you tell us about your race that's coming up while Toby gets
I pulled up the calendar, so we're good. Barn has their NES race coming up this Sunday, 2nd of June. You guys had a good laugh. They posted their flyer. I don't know if you guys saw it, but they spell East wrong and it's spelled super wrong. So it's the Northeast Super Series, but they spelled Super Supper, and they spelled East with it was it was EEAST, so it was bizarre. So we had a good laugh over that one. These guys just don't know how to spell check their flyers. So that's coming up on Sunday, the 2nd of June. So that's a 4-race series, I think, with trains and lays. The Rumble in Rome, that kicks off next on the 7th. I think the Fuel Nationals kick off the same weekend. You guys know that? I think they do, right? It's coming up first week of June.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Yeah. Are you guys going out?
No.
I wish.
Is that in Idaho?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's Flag Day weekend for what it's worth.
Right.
That's a Mod Live Media event. Yep. Good deal.
So Rumble Alone, that one's 7th through 9th. It's always a big local event. A lot of guys go out there for that. G's have a race coming up on the 15th. I haven't really talked about G's, but I have them all on my calendar. The barn on the 9th have a club race. Trains and Lanes have their TNL Nitro Challenge coming up on the 15th of June, which is another spectacular gig similar to the electric one they had before. And then on the 16th of June, which is Father's Day, it's the race for Herman Olberding, Olberding, which of course no one can spell at the barn. So that's a significant race. You guys should go up and support Trevor and his family.
Most definitely.
And then obviously the 20th is the Party Rock race at LCRC. So that should probably bring us up to by the time we have the next broadcast. And then Tom, what do you have going on?
Yeah, we're club racing. So we got some club racing going on this weekend, which this podcast won't be out by the June 1st. We got the 15th and I think the 29th. So I think that's our three next ones. I keep a calendar up on rhythmrc.com. Kind of has the practice schedule, the race schedule there.
Cool.
But those we got the next, we're like every other week for the month of June. So I'm looking forward to having
awesome
3 weekends in a row. Get everybody out there and burn some fuel.
Try it.
Well, even though there was a couple typos on the flyer, I will have to say Rohan built a really awesome layout. The last race there was really good. It was epic, as Aiden knows. I think the layout was really raceable, fast, flowing. Just really good job by Rohan and the crew. They had a little typo on that flyer.
Don't put the flyers onto Rohan. Rohan's just back office. He just wants to do the track and do everything. It's
Actually, Rohan told me that he proofed the last flyer and that he actually just made a mistake on the price because it's a trophy race and it was 45, not 35.
Yeah.
And you know, he's got a lot going on getting ready for the race, so anybody can make a mistake. But the great news about that event was though, no problem marshaling. Everybody came out. It was actually probably one of the best marshaled races at the barn that I've seen in a long time. So I'm really hoping that, the mood and hoping the respect changes. I had also a big talk about that with Rohan. Definitely there's a lot coming up, and Big Apple's got a huge race this year, right? 10-year anniversary. So he's, getting everything ready. He's going to do the right thing. We're going to have a great season at the barn. Basically what I just wanted to get in there. He was also hoping, Toby, if you can get this podcast squeezed together. I think we're pretty tight, not too many edits. Maybe you can get it out on Saturday before his race.
Yeah, it should be doable for sure. Saturday, as in this Saturday? Yeah, I got it.
This Saturday. If it's possible. If not,
it's Saturday. There's infinite numbers of Saturdays. But yeah, I'll go for this Saturday.
I told him it was slim, but I'd ask. So there it is. All right. We're 2:03 on the clock. We had an awesome section from Vin. It was awesome having Cam here for sure. Right. You are our first YouTuber and RC social influencer to come on the show, and really excited for that content that you brought in with.
I don't think he wants to be called an influencer.
It's all right. Listen, it's on me. I need to get to an A main. I need to win a race, and then we could put this influencer to bed. But
all right,
I don't know how long that's going to take.
B main influencer next. George did that way.
Though, I watched Cam racing because I was pitting with him all day, and he's very conservative. Yeah, and we had to talk about kind of who he mentors after.
We did. Shout out Jack Benam, I think friend of the show.
There you go. There you go. Jack's been on the show, so kudos to that, right? There you go.
Of course.
So he's got some really good racing ahead of him because he's learning the right way, kept to his lines, and he didn't get overzealous, which means he can keep it under control in the long term. So I look forward to seeing not only your future podcast, but we're gonna keep track of where you're at on the track.
Appreciate it, George. I can promise you that I will never throw my remote in anger on a driver's stand, even if it's for the views. I'm not going to do it.
So, never done that.
Never.
You won't be a Josh Andrews, you mean?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, Josh did that recently?
Dude, Josh took his whole fucking radio box, right? We're sitting there at the race, and all of a sudden he takes his radio box from the driver's stand. and just throws it right in front of the fucking pit ramp coming in. And it's like boom, and everybody's like, "What the fuck?" Yeah, he had crashed like a couple times in a row, got frustrated, and he's normally a very good racer, so he just had a bad day. But kind of a unique way to show it. I wish we had it on video.
We were this is a few years ago. Kevin was doing some club racing. They had a club race on a Friday before we went into the program for one of the other races on Saturday, and my shit just fell apart, and I whaled my M17 off that driver stand, fucking threw it as far as I could.
How'd it feel? It felt right though.
It landed, and it was good. And I put that shit right on RC Tech the next day. Got a new one.
God bless.
Did it land like a Kyosho?
Yeah, it just got right up again. It was all good to go.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
That's why I keep a neck strap for my radio around.
Lightly used.
Stop
you from throwing it.
I'm going to throw it with me. So
I haven't thought about that. Yeah, maybe that's why I haven't thrown it since.
Hey, happy birthday, Aiden! Real quick, since you're on, I see your face. Happy birthday, man.
Thank
I hope you had a great day.
Happy birthday.
Yeah,
it was awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Hey, they say most kids get the ticket within their first year, so keep it low.
I lost my license in 4 months, so if it makes you feel better.
Exactly.
Only for points because I was a knucklehead, but
still up.
I had 4 points in like 3 months. But,
I got so angry. I sold the car. It was my first car, and I found it 25 years later and bought it back. It's in the garage now.
No way.
Wow.
Now I'm more composed.
Pinto?
What's that?
Is it a Pinto?
Chevy 2 Nova.
Oh, nice, dude. Nova. Novas were awesome. Man had one of those in lime green.
Nice.
Big bench seat. Didn't even have separate seats. The front seat was a big bench. Big old metal steering wheel.
That was good with your girlfriends back then. We didn't have to wear seat belts or anything like that, back in the old days. With the horse and buggies.
On that note, anybody else have anything to add to this episode before we throw a little last parting note for our sponsor, EB Mods?
Like and share if you can.
Absolutely. Thanks, Finn.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. I always forget to mention that. Like and share. Subscribe too, please.
Yeah.
We also on YouTube, so if you can hit that subscribe button, share it away, be awesome. We are trying to do a live episode in June. We're still trying to put it together. This podcast, as unique as it is with the multiple guys on there, we're trying to bring, content that's good and creative for you guys, something that's applicable to the race season, right? So we started out doing driver interviews, and as the podcast has grown, we'll be into our 18th episode. We're trying to get a little bit more geared to bringing you applicable race information or content during the race season, and then we'll get a little bit more back into specific driver interviews and memorializing certain great racers in the local area during the fall and winter season. So it's kind of a little bit more the direction the podcast is going to take. That being said, anybody else have anything they want to add?
Just want to say you guys have a great thing going, and I'm real happy to be part of this and see where it takes you guys too. So thanks again for the opportunity.
Anytime. I also want to say we would really appreciate it. I'm sure you got a lot of followers on your channel, so we hope you're going to share this and share our information.
Yeah,
that would be great to be able to cross that. I know we'll definitely put that in our tag going out your channel as well.
You got it.
And that's pretty much it. Toby, before I wrap it up, you want to throw out the thing for Ed?
The what?
You're going to tell everybody how awesome EB Mods is again, and
absolutely.
There you go.
So let's want to give it up to Ed Bridges over at EB Mods, who is helping out support our podcast here. So you guys get a chance, go to ebmods.com. It's been in the industry for many years. He'll help you out with anything you need with your engines at the track. He does engine braking, piston sleeve resizes, engine rebuilds, dyno tuning. You can also get engines, glow plugs, exhaust pipes, that kind of thing, direct from him, discounted prices. So check out Ed. He's your guy with anything nitro related.
Wait,
I just got this motor back from him. I'll just show you guys real quick while we're on it. But it's a brand new 2104, and it's got look how it's all sealed up. It's got its sticker on there, and oil bath engine break-in, dyno tune, 30% nitro, and then witch pipe, a 2090 with a 75 header. So all the info is right here, and yeah, and he even marked it like this is engine number 3. So he's got his notes on it, everything, how it performed, and when it comes back in for service, he knows what to expect.
Absolutely, that's a great thing. So one other thing to mention, if any of you guys are out there watching the podcast, you want to get involved and support the podcast, you can drop us an email or hit us up on Facebook or YouTube. We can put your logos on the page, on the Facebook and YouTube feed. We can include a supplied 30-second video, played a couple of times during the podcast. So if you guys are interested, hit us up and we'll get you involved.
that includes anybody from a track to a product supplier or anybody that's in the industry in general that wants some exposure for what they're doing.
Or even like the local pizza guy or something. We'll eat pizza. I love pizza.
Toby, when's your next race coverage?
46 RC will be at the LCRC race in 20th of June. So let's hope for a rain-free weekend, because every single race you've had since I don't know when now, Kevin can't even remember we've had rain at some point. So, but praying for
any of those guys are listening to Zach and Shane and Kevin. Obviously, those guys did awesome getting that track ready.
They really did.
Considering that weather, those
really
guys.
did.
I personally went and thanked all those guys before I left the track last time. I mean, freaking awesome. And these nights we just take for granted. We pout about bad weather, but these guys are getting up at 4:00 in the morning to get that track ready for us, and awesome for those guys. And Kevin's got a good group there. He's got a lot of good people around him, and he's a hard ass worker. I saw Krista out there. I mean, pretty awesome of those guys to make sure we had a good race weekend in.
Solid crew.
Absolutely.
Sweet. All right. What do we got? 212. That's a wrap. So for all of us here at the Northeast RC Racer Podcast, we'd like to say thank you very much for watching episode number 17. We're heading on the way to 18 with our hopefully live episode. If not, we're going to shuffle things around. Nonetheless, we are going to bring you something you want to watch. This podcast would not be produced the way it is without the help from Toby Hampson. So thank you very much, Toby, for all your efforts. This podcast, especially this episode, was really awesome. Great job. Toby, thanks so much for your setup advice. Aiden, thanks for, doing well for your pop. You make him proud every time you race. Good job, buddy.
Thank you.
Tom Petrella, thanks for bringing rhythm to South Jersey, bro. That's a real thank you so much. Really appreciate having a track back in New Jersey again, man. It's invaluable. So thanks a lot.
Put that chicken down, Toby. I know you're up to something.
And Cam, very much appreciate you coming out and supporting. So we look forward to having you back sometime in the future. In the meantime, we're going to let Toby take it from here. We'll see you guys next week. Next episode, not next week. Go ahead, Toby.
What am I doing?
I don't know. You got the chicken in your hand. We're all expecting.
There she goes.